Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Women Who Rock with Success, which is an award-winning show for professional women. We profile a collective of amazing women who are thriving to build their brand. Women are handpicked in various fields who can provide credible information to build your business and lifestyle. We are live each Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time, followed by our latest brand, Women Who Rock Investigates. To learn more about us, go to our website at www.womenwhorockwithsuccess.com. Now, let's join our podcast host in the studio, Mrs. Diane Winbush.
And good morning, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Women Who Rock with Success. And, of course, we have some amazing women that are on the platform to be able to share their brand, their expertise, their business, their resources, and their tools. And then you also get an opportunity after the show to be able to network. Yes, you'll be able to network and then participate with any master classes or live productions that they are sponsoring for the public sector. So today we're going to continue to be talking about business. I think that's what we kind of been talking about the entire summer, along with some other art and entertainment actresses and authors and what have you. So July and August, I think, is going to be the biggest months that we have, basically, in regards to branding, business management, and business strategies. And so today we have a wonderful guest in the studio with us who's going to be talking about business and how she helped entrepreneurs to be able to thrive to their highest peak. And so good morning and welcome to the show, Mrs. Limor Bergaman Gross.
Hi, Diane. Pleasure to be here.
Great. We're so happy to have you with us today. And everyone, Limor is actually from Israel. So guess what? Yay, that's kudos. We love it when we have international guests on the show. So anyway, to make a long story short, really get started and kind of talk to us a little bit about, a little bit about you. What were some of the ideas or creative thoughts that brought you to this point as to want to be able to help individuals in the field of business and to be able to help their business to thrive?
Absolutely. So my background is actually working in tech. So I used to work as a software engineer and grew into leadership positions. And at some point, I really wanted to make an impact in supporting, especially women, in the tech industry. And that's how it all started for me.
Okay, great. So it's just you just had a desire just to wanted to help women from the start.
Yeah, I mean, at all levels, to be honest. I work with women that are at the beginning of their careers. They are mid-level, seniors, executives, and founders. And I decided to make that change about 2.5 years ago upon returning here to Israel. I used to live in the U.S. for 9 years and decided that changing a country is an excellent opportunity also to change what I'm doing.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you was a United States American. Oh, wow. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about your diversity. So everyone speaks about the diversity and inclusion, but implementing is not clear. So how can companies build an exclusive culture?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Everyone talks about it. Not so many companies are actually putting their words where their mouth at, right? I mean, because it's hard. It's hard, and I've been there. I've done that. I think it starts with intention first, to really want to make a difference, to really want to have an inclusive culture, and then really making an effort. And an effort can include also spending money. So, for example, when I started, I wanted to hire more women to my organization when I was a director of engineering. It was not easy, but I found a company that I also work with today called Power to Fly. And Power to Fly helped us build a brand as an inclusive employer and helped us hire women. So really taking a step forward and being intentional and either spend money to have someone to help you, or to find and allocate the resources to do that.
Okay, so kind of tell us a little bit about the differentiality between the United States. Of course, women here in the United States started working in the workforce in the 1960s, unfortunately. And so women continue to grow in the tech world, in the business world, the digital world, and also in the corporate world. So versus, as in your country, in Israel, kind of tell us a little bit that you may see a little bit different versus here in the U.S.
One thing that I noticed, and this is a huge generalization, it really depends, right? But I noticed, here, first of all, most women are working. And this is a lot of times due to financial need, right? There need to be two people that supports the family. And when moving to the United States, I was actually quite surprised to see many households that have a single person, working. Usually it was the man. And not to say, again, it's a huge generalization. I know many women are working, but I was seeing many families that women were stay-at-home moms. And to be said, that there are also a lot of stay-at-home dads because it was financially possible for them to do so. It's not a bad thing. I was just surprised to see that.
Right. Okay. So, so a stay-at-home dad, you was kind of surprised to see that here in the U.S. or in Israel?
In the U.S., I was surprised to see that. Yeah. And it's great that people can do that, but then the challenge that I see for those people is returning back to the workforce when, they don't need to take care of whatever kids or maybe support an elderly family member, and then returning to work after several years of break is not easy for them.
Okay, yeah. And, of course, here in the United States, there perhaps may be a lot of stay-at-home fathers due to we had an economic crash, of course. You perhaps maybe was here in the States then at the time, and that was in 2008. And then, of course, we had the coronavirus era that occurred here, which occurred basically all over the world. And so that kind of pushed a lot of fathers back in at home as well because of the loss of their jobs. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. We, interview individuals from the UK, British, London, Australia, and what have you. And so it's kind of interesting to be able to hear the diversities of how the workforce and the tech world kind of coincide or commingle together. So, we just kind of wanted to get a basis on both sides of the fence, and yeah, that's very, very great. So, so we're going to talk about teams. Now, I know you was talking about you had built a team as well, and then so the next question is going to be, what are some of the best strategies to manage remote teams effectively? We had a guest on the show last week, and she was an attorney, and this was on another episode, of course, and so she was able to build her law firm from a virtual law firm, and so in regards to that, she was able to build a team. She was able to build a team virtually remote, and she was able to continue to be able to thrive in her law firm. So this is very, very important as to when an entrepreneur or professional has their own team, whether it's brick and mortar or whether it is remote or whether it's virtual. It's very, very important as to how to manage and choose and select those teams. So that would be the next question. We would like for you to be to share a little information with the audience about that and some of the strategies to manage a remote team effectively.
Absolutely. To be honest, I started to work fully remote at the beginning of 2016. And I did not believe it is possible at first.
Okay.
I think it starts with a culture, first of all. I mean, depending on how big is your business, if it's just a small business or a large business, you need to have the culture of working remote. as remote first, because one of the challenges is if you try to hire some people remote, but the other people are in office, and then it creates disconnect between people who are remote and they feel excluded. You need to have processes in place, a good hiring process that will include what kind of steps you need to have in your interview process, who interviews you, on what topics, what are the key metrics you want them to check during the interview, so you really are able to analyze and understand if someone you interview is a good fit, just because it's a little bit harder. When the first times, I remember it was really hard for me to hire people that I've never met before. But as you build the hiring process and you do it, the more you do it, you get used to it, and you see that it is possible. Obviously, I was always insisting on having video interviews and not just voice interviews, just because I wanted to see the person also on camera and see who they are. And when you onboard someone, you need to build also an onboarding process for them, so they can feel connected to the company, to the people, to be able to meet people. You need to make an extra effort to make sure that they meet all the relevant people that they need to work with, even if they don't need to work with them directly on a daily basis, just because it's harder to get to know people when you're not in the same office. So I used to build a 30, 60, 90 days plan for every person I was hiring, and I was asking managers that reported to me to do the same for their teams. And that helps someone who just gets started to know what is expected from them, and also to have the structure for them to meet the different people that they need to meet.
Okay. And so in regards to that, we're going to stay right there on that same topic, but we're going to ask this question as to the relationship, as to how to be a relationship. So, sometimes when we are in a business, sometimes it can be difficult for individuals to be able to build a positive team remote. Sometimes it may be difficult for team members to be able to trust, their supervisor. So, and when you're starting a business, or when you already have a pre-existing corporation, what are some of the, factors that play when you're trying to build a relationship with your team?
To me, it's always about people, right? To realize that there's a person, that works with you, and it's not just about yield and what they do for you. I mean, assuming you're a business owner or a manager, it's not just they need to deliver something. They are people, and you need to connect with them as people to be truly and genuinely interested in them and understand their challenges. Don't make assumptions. Really be interested in their lives and in their struggles. A lot of times we tend to make a lot of assumptions if someone is not behaving in a way that we expect them to. So instead of just judging them and making an assumption, be curious to understand. No, I'm not suggesting to pry in their personal lives, but just be interested as much as they are willing to share in their life and what's going on, and be empathetic to their life situations. And do the same. I mean, I found that when you are showing your case as a human being, exposing some challenges that you have, again, as much as you feel comfortable doing so, people can connect to you much better because they see you as a person and not just as a business owner or as a manager.
Right. Okay. So what about that? With the same question, what about if the team member or employee or stakeholder is an introvert? So how would you be able to approach that type of, because you have some individuals, they have a certain style. So I'm just wanting to look. I have the professionalism. I have all of the critique. I got the articulation. I got everything it takes for this job. But how does the manager be able to manage a stakeholder or an employee that has a introvert type of personality?
Yeah, obviously it can be challenging if the person is very introverted. But I work with a lot of, in engineering, most people are more introverted than extroverted. So I think that building the one-on-one relationships and insisting, in times I needed to insist of having regular one-on-one check-ins every week, although some people in my team thought maybe it's not necessary, because it was important for me to build a trust and relationship with those people. And as I said, when you start a conversation with someone, don't just dive into the status and all the details about the work. First, try to see what's going on in their life. How was their last week? How was their weekend? Try to share a little bit about you. And it takes time. Depending on the personality, it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. But if you really invest in that relationship consistently, eventually they will open up to whatever degree that they can, right? Every person is different.
Absolutely, because now not only do we see that type of strategy when it comes to employer, but we also see it as customer and employer as well. Because sometimes if a company, you walk into a AT&T company or something like that, or you walk into a bank or something, and if they see that you're shy, they will do whatever some stakeholders, they'll do whatever it takes to be able to open that person up, to be able to engage a relationship with them, I guess, it's not them thanking you for you banking with them, of course, but sometimes you will have corporations that will try to build relationships as well as with their customers. So I think that's very, very important. So great answer. So share some tips that you would like in reference to building a personal brand. We're going to be talking about social media now, personal brand with LinkedIn. A lot of times, social media, it's really how we are, orchestrate, manage, how we commingle on social media. We've had several events this year virtually in regards to that, and where we've had speakers to come on to the show and share, about social media marketing, and what have you. So now when it comes to, we're still talking about tech, share some tips, with the audience is how to build a personal brand, even on social media, such as LinkedIn. And we're not talking about Facebook. LinkedIn is a little bit on a high professional platform where individuals can be able to find jobs. They can be able to get noticed for a job. They can also be able to share different, take for instance, my profile deals with public relations and individuals that are in that type of field. So what would you suggest to professional women in regards to how to build their personal brand on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so first of all, it starts with building a profile that matches their skills and what they want to do. A lot of times people tend to just list what they're doing today and not think about their strategy and their, professional growth. So usually women I work with, I try to understand in what areas they want to develop themselves and make sure to highlight the skills that they have that are relevant to what they would like to evolve in the future, which may be slightly different or completely different from what they're doing today. So first of all, building really a solid profile that will include obviously their picture, background picture, a good headline, summary, and feature all their work and all their accomplishments. Focus on accomplishments and how they made a difference rather than listing their responsibilities. And then, the next level would be to really engage in the platform. And although, as you mentioned, it's not Facebook and it's a professional network, but we have to remember it's people connecting with people. So I always advise people to not shy away from being themselves. It's not just all about being so professional all the time. Sometimes when you talk about things that are happening in your life, some challenges that you have, that can help people connect to you and share stuff that are going on, and also bring value to others by sharing challenges and how you overcome that. And the more you share content, the more you build yourself as a subject matter expert in the field that you are publishing content on. So it can be on product, it can be on, technical stuff, or it can be on other things, depending on your expertise.
Cool. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, and so delegation, how would we delegate? Share some tips on that in regards to, how you should delegate, even in regards to your team.
Yeah, delegation is always a challenging subject, especially when people become new managers or when they are getting to the next level in their career. And it's always hard to figure out, okay, things that I've done before, maybe now others can do for me. And I always challenge people to think about, okay, what are the things that are really important for you to achieve in your role? And you feel like you and only you can do them, or what's the unique value that you can provide, versus what are the things that you can do but either provide less value or less, good use of your time, or what are the things that you do that others can do just the same, if not even better. And usually that stimulates some thinking process of, okay, what do I do today? What actually, is it a good use of my time? Would I pay someone the salary that I pay myself, or someone pays me to do that kind of work, versus higher value work that I can do that is much better use of my time? For example, in my world, when you become a manager, from engineer to a manager, or from manager to a senior manager or to a director, you tend to want to do all the technical stuff, the day-to-day, the operational stuff, and then you neglect more the strategic thinking and planning. But those are really the value adds of you as a leader. So it's always a challenge for new leaders to delegate the day-to-day to others, thinking, maybe they will not do it as good as I am, or I will not be involved in all the details. So usually I try to challenge by taking small steps forward and see what you feel more comfortable putting off from you and delegating to others, and you go from there.
Okay, great. So now we're still talking about organization, and we want to talk about structure and restructure. So, of course, here in the U.S., individuals have had to restructure a lot. You have a lot of women that have worked the corporate American platform, and they have had to restructure their business and do virtual. And then also you've had women that are in business that have perhaps have been downsized, and they have had to start all over again. They had to start from the bottom. So, for example, I think back here several years ago, after the economic crash that the U.S. had, we had the news media, they were downsizing, and so we had I think she was a producer, and her job got cut, so she had to go back and redevelop herself all over again. So she couldn't just say, I'm going back to the news desk, because the news desk was no longer there for her position. So they downsized. So how can a woman restructure her organization? What can she do? I know a lot of people are doing things online now. We had a news lady here in Memphis, Tennessee. What she did was, once the COVID hit, she had worked for this for NBC for about 15 years, and so once the COVID hit, she said no. The COVID gave her some actual, a new look on life, and I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They are revamping a whole lot in the U.S. as to how they would like to work and their work play and how they would like to manage it. It has really reconstructed. So in your terms, with your expertise, Limor, share with the audience of how to restructure and structure their organization, and what are some of the things to consider. I know we all have ideas, but we have to consider some things too before we decide to revamp some things in our organization.
Yeah. So are you talking about from the company perspective or from the individual making changes in their careers?
Making changes in their careers. Or we can be able to, if you have the information for both, we would like for you to be able to share both.
Sure. So let's start with the individual. So I think it goes first about opening up your mind to different possibilities. A lot of times what happens is that we limit ourselves with, I can do only that. And I was guilty, in the same way of thinking. I was always thinking that there is only one thing that was possible for me, was to be an engineering leader. But really when I sat down and figure out what are my passions, what is really important for me. My example was to make an impact on women in tech and help them grow and succeed in their careers. What are the things that I'm really good at? And what you can do, and one strategy that I always ask people to do is to ask people in their surrounding. It can be family members, friends, people who know them from their current or previous jobs that they have done, and answer what are their top 3 strengths or things that they do really well, and what are the 3 things that they feel like they can improve on. And it's very interesting when you get an external perspective from people from different aspects of your life, and that can help you also open up to possibilities and think about, oh, this person said I'm really good with connecting to people. So build your skills, bucket, right? What are the skills? What are all the skills and knowledge and expertise that you gained in your previous roles? What are your passions? What are the really things that you're passionate about? And what value can you bring to the world or to different companies? And try to find a common denominator between the 3. Your passions, your skills, and the business needs. And that can, just doing that kind of thinking can open you up. You need to be open-minded to new things, to possibilities that you haven't thought about. And doing things differently.
Okay. So what about a corporation? Here, I can't speak about Israel, but we're going to hit in Israel too in a minute. But here in the U.S., of course, when we had the 2008 economic crash, and so we had very powerful conglomerates like the Limor Brothers, GMC. It was a lot of corporations that had failed simply because it was on a financial. It was a financial crisis basically. And so we had the Limor Brothers. I think one of the I don't know if it was Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac. I think they hit the plunge as well in the financial industry, and all of these individuals these corporations had to reconstruct it. So what are some of the things that you would like to offer to even corporations? How could they reconstruct their business, and what would they need to consider on that aspect as well? Because sometimes it's not easy coming back or trying to get back from Chapter 7. I think the Limor Brothers filed Chapter 11. GMC, I think, was maybe Chapter 13, and then the government here was giving out bailout packages. So they can be able to stay afloat. Casinos had even plunged, in their business and what have you. With financially, they did. So, once they get a hold to the podcast and also the media, and they hear, hey, look, we got somebody that's going to be able to share with us as to how to reconstruct. So, share with us, all of us, as to how you would guide a corporation as to how to reconstruct some things. It takes a lot to get back from, like I stated before, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11. It's a gradual process, but still, there's still hope and there's still a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I think it takes courage and willing to change. I think those are the top things. See what hasn't worked in the past and how the market looks today and how you need to adjust. Think about, for example, in COVID, we had industries that crashed, like the airline industry, the hotel businesses, Airbnb. And think about Airbnb, for example, how they took that as an opportunity to divert from just hosting people for the night to hosting experiences and doing things virtual. So you need to figure out what are what kind of skills that you have, what are the core strengths that you have and that you have in your team that you can utilize for today's market and how market is going to evolve. You cannot stay stagnated and assume everything will be the same. We see that also in terms of the workforce. Everyone is working, or many people today are working remote, and companies that insist of people coming to the office will lose because people want the flexibility. So you need to adjust yourself to the current market situations and figure out what kind of strength you can offer. What are the things that you can offer based on today's needs that are innovative, that will generate new streams of income?
Okay, great. So are there any last factors that you would like to leave with the audience in regards to the tech world, or how they can be able to reposition themselves for business?
So I think I would like to leave people with the thinking that there is more to them than they think. So basically, there's so many possibilities for each and every one of us to do in this world, and we need to be courageous and understand our value to the world, and not be afraid to make changes in our lives, even though it's scary. Have the courage to make a change and understand your value and what you can do and impact, rather than just what you have done till this day.
Okay, perfect. So with our last question, of course, we do not want you to exit the studio without sharing with the audience of how they can be able to connect with you via website, or if you would like for them to follow you on your social media handles, or if you have any master classes, information that you can be able to share with the audience after the taping, you can be able to do so. You can be able to share any links or any publications that you have published, books. You can be able to do that at this time.
Thank you so much, Diane, for having me. I think the best way for people to contact me would be either via LinkedIn, which is, look for me at Limor Bergaman. It's linkedin.com/in/Limor Bergaman, or on my website, which is limorbergman.com.
Okay, wonderful. Limor, we thank you so much for being with us in the studio today, and we thank you for taking the time out to be our guest all the way from Israel. That is so awesome. And then we was able to get also the tools from the tech world through you of how to be able to rebuild, reconstruct, and then you also shared with the audience your passion as to why you was in the tech world, the corporate field, and then also you decided to go another chapter, in the tech world. And so we thank you so much for doing that. Listeners, you can be able to go with us on Thursday, www.womenwhorockWithSuccessMedia.com, or you can find us on Facebook, and you can be able to see who the next guest is. We're also on Instagram as well, and you can be able to see who's coming up next on the show. So once again, Limor, thank you for being our guest today, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, Diane, and have a great day.
with Success complies with the rules and terms according to the Federal Communications Commission podcast guidelines. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own, and their appearance on our digital media platforms does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. All guests who embrace our media stations are experts who are licensed in their fields of occupation. All rights reserved.